Yes, this bike is reading my heart rate currently, not getting much assist. I think I'm just getting no power from the motor. Such an interesting take on an e-bike and how it functions. Let's get to something that I'm not sure how this bike will feel on. This bike is attempting to be two things at once, a trail-capable e-bike as well as a daily commuter. It's called the Velotric Summit 2, and if you've been looking for an e-bike most similar to a mountain bike, but you don't want to lose the everyday practicality of more of a commuter, this one might be for you. There are actually a ton of features that make this bike capable of a lot of things, but one of the main ones is it has a torque or a cadence sensor. Maybe when you hit the streets, you want to hit those top speeds with the cadence sensor. In this review, we'll do a full walk around of all the components, dive into the tech, then yes, we'll go for a ride both on pavement and on the trails here in Bentonville. I'll talk about why the heck Velotric is including a heart rate monitor with this e-bike, and then finally I'll wrap things up with the pros and cons, but first, let's take a closer look. It should say something that Velotric is on their second generation of this e-bike. In fact, they're on the third generation of some of their other models, but Velotric is now a big name in the e-bike industry. They have over 1,200 dealerships around the United States, and apparently you can test ride at each location. If you're planning to buy from Velotric, why not save some money on your purchase? Check out our discount code down in the description. Also, if you use our link or scan the QR code before you buy, it helps us out at no additional cost for you. Thanks so much for your support. It comes in 3 different colors: Galaxy Purple, Ocean Blue, or Glacial Silver. Hopefully the camera is doing justice because this frame has a very cool sparkle paint job to it. Claimed weight is 57 pounds. It has a 440-pound payload capacity, and I love that it comes in 2 different sizes, regular and large, fitting riders all the way down to 5'2" up to 6'5". I'm 6 feet tall with a 32-inch inseam. My wife is 5'5". She also fit. With that, let's dive into all the components. The hydraulic disc brakes come from Shimano, something we don't often see. 180mm rotors front and rear. Not surprisingly, an off-road tread on the tires. These come from Kenda, 27.5 by 2.4 inches wide. The front wheel attaches with a through axle. You get plastic fenders front and rear. They went with an RST Vibe front suspension fork. It offers 120 millimeters of travel. This is what you can expect out of the front suspension fork. A huge amount of travel. And yes, it's an air suspension front fork. Simply unscrew this. You'll need a shock pump. I'll link one down in the description. And you'll want to reference the sticker on the front fork to dial this in for your weight. There's also a rebound adjust on the right side. Nice cable management into the head tube. The 500 lumen front light runs off the main battery. And yes, running lights in the rear. They do go brighter when you hit the brakes, and turn signals. There's wider handlebars as you'd expect on more of a trail-capable e-bike, though you get a little bit more of a sweep on these bars, as well as an adjustable stem. That allows you to be in a more upright riding position if you'd prefer. There's matching Shimano hydraulic disc brake levers, ergonomic rubber locking grips, a left-hand thumb throttle, a bell, and up front we have 9 speeds. This is a Shimano Q's shifter. The Summit 2 comes not only with keys, but also NFC cards. I'll show you what they do in a second. But this is Velotric's all-in-one display with controls, power button on top. There's battery capacity, an icon for the auto lights, time, class. This is quick swappable between the 3 classes. Hit the bottom button to do that. Class 1, 2, or 3, and there's a custom, which I'll show you in a second. Then you have the pedal assist, Eco, Trail, Sport, Boost. You can engage walk mode by holding pedal assist down, turn the lights on by holding pedal assist up, and then you have what sensor you're using, either the torque or the cadence sensor. You can quick swap that while you're riding by holding the M button. Turn signals left and right, and it does make a sound. There is a bar here for motor power. You can get additional information by hitting the M button. Trip distance, trip time, estimated range, which does change depending on your pedal assist level, CO2 saved, max speed, average speed, odometer, and total time, motor temp, controller temp, cadence, and calories. Next, average power from you as well as the motor, heart rate and average heart rate, and back to the main screen. There is a USB-C port located beneath the display. To get into the advanced settings, hold the M button. We have speed limit for each class. Allows you to change the pedal and throttle top speed. There's pulse mode, which we'll show off in the first person riding footage. Cruise control, we'll turn that on so we can test that out as well. Sensor swap, switch between the torque or the cadence sensor. Next is experience. You can switch between slow, smooth, and turbo for riding. Same with throttle. That's another feature that allows this bike to be more accessible, or crank it up if you're an experienced rider. You can clear trip data, add an NFC card. Let's do that. Make sure you turn NFC card on. And now when I turn off the bike and turn it back on, it's going to prompt for the card. There you go. Next is Connect app. I'll show you that in a second. Find My. This bike has Apple Find My and Android Find Hub. Thanks, Velotric. Heart rate connect. Rear light mode. You can change what the rear lights do while you're riding or when you brake. Turn signal click. You can turn that off if you'd like. Auto light. Screen brightness. Auto power off. Sensor calibration. Ride tuning. You can customize each level of pedal assist. You can also do this within the app, which I'll show you how to do. There's throttle sync. I'll talk about that in the first person riding footage. Time setting. And finally, version info. There's a ton of functionality within the display itself, but you at least want to attach your bike to your app when you get it so you can make sure it's up to date. After that though, the app is totally optional. Just know that Velotric could continue to make this bike even better via over-the-air updates. So we will go into Connect app. I'm going to add a new bike. This is the Summit 2. We'll call it the EE-S2. Another reason you might want to use the app is you can track your rides. Simply hit start riding. And then once you've tracked a bunch of rides, you can see how much you're riding over days, weeks, months, and the year. And it will give you all sorts of stats for your ride. Let's go into bike settings. I'm going to turn on pulse mode. Looks like I need to add some specifics. Yes, I'm 37. 6 feet tall, around 140 pounds, 10 to 20 miles per hour riding speed. Let's do mixed use. And riding scenario. Let's do commuting. Now we can turn pulse mode on. Of course, you have your class selection. You can kind of override this bike to make it do what might not legally classify as an e-bike, say for off-road use. So within custom, you can change the throttle up to 28, but what I would personally like to do is have pedaling stop at 28, but throttle stop at 20 for a class 2 e-bike, though class 3 in the sense that you can pedal up to 28. You can adjust the experience, throttle sync, sensor swap, auto light, and then the rest of the settings are some of the same settings that you have within the display, but I want to show you something, and that is ride tuning. I think it's easier within the app to adjust all the pedal assist levels. For the first person riding footage, I'm going to leave everything the same except I'm going to crank boost all the way up so we can get the full power from the motor. And yes, I'll turn assisted start up to 5 as well. And then finally at the bottom here, if you do nothing else within the app, make sure your bike is up to date. Looks like I have some updates to do before I ride the bike. And that's it for the controls, display, and the app. There's 2 sets of mounting points on the frame. Battery enters on the bottom, keyhole on the left, Turn to the right to release the battery, and then there is an additional lever that you pull down. It's a 48 volt, 16.7 amp hour battery. It's certified to UL2271. The entire bike's electronics are certified to UL2849. The battery is IPX7 rated, which means you could dunk this in water. I don't know why you would, but you could dry it off and put it back in the bike and it will work just fine. The frame is IPX6 rated. To get an idea of the charge, you can push this button here. It can be charged off the bike here, or when the battery is in the bike by flipping up this cover. It's spring loaded. If you're looking for some additional protection for your e-bike battery, this is our battery bag sold at shop.ebikeescape.com. I use these personally all the time, and we have a ton of high quality e-bike accessories available at shop.ebikeescape.com. This one's a roll top bag. It's waterproof and flame resistant. You get a nice handle. To put the battery back in, terminals first, and snap into place. You get a 3 amp charger with a wall mount, so about 5 hours to charge it up from empty. Also the heart rate monitor, which I'll talk about in the first person riding footage. You also get some tools, as well as a manual and safety stickers. It's a mountain bike inspired saddle, if you will, though offers more cushion than my mountain bike saddle. There's plastic pedals, a beefy kickstand. The rear rack is optional, has a max payload capacity of 66 pounds, though it is MIC HD, and that just means it's compatible with any MIC accessory. We sell a ton of different bags and baskets that are MIC compatible. This is the one that I'd personally use for commuting, and so you simply slide it up, use the MIC key, and then it's locked to the frame, offers some security, and this bag has roll-down panniers, which is cool for additional storage. To release, use your MIC key and pop it off, and I guess you're ready to hit the trails. All right, this is a rear hub motor, 750 watts of nominal power, 1300 watts of peak power. It has 100 newton meters of torque. There's a matching Q's derailleur, 9 speeds, 11 to 46 teeth in the rear. And in the front, a 40 tooth narrow wide chainring. Nice chainstay protector. With that, let's hit the trails as well as some pavement riding to see how quick this 1300 watt motor really is. We are going to start with some pavement riding, and then I will take this off-road. For that section, I'll start with some things that this bike is definitely capable of doing, and then perhaps we'll test its limits towards the end of the off-road section. But first, throttle only up to 20. We'll see just how fast this motor really is. 3, 2, 1, throttle only. And I do have it in turbo with the throttle, so we got even more acceleration. There's 20 already. So very capable, and yes, of course, you can turn the throttle responsiveness down if you want. And also, you have throttle sync. Well, what does that mean? I'm going to hot swap to the Cadence sensor, which I have throttle sync turned on for, and I'm going to throttle only. And as you'll see, we're just going to cruise at around 9 miles an hour. And if I go to trail, it's just going to be a little bit faster. So that's what throttle sync does. When it's turned off, you have access to the top speed of the bike in any pedal assist level. The bike also has cruise control. Let's test that out. I'll hold the bottom button here. Looks like I stopped it at 8 miles an hour. And I can pedal more if I want to, and I might go a little bit faster, but that's only because of my effort. The motor is going to want to hold me at that 8 mile per hour mark. And so if I stop pedaling here, the motor is going to kick back in, and it's just going to hold me at 8 miles per hour. So that is cruise control if you want to use it. Next, let's talk about the Cadence sensor. Remember, a Cadence sensor, all it does is it determines whether you're pedaling. If you're pedaling, it will give you power from the motor, still depending on the pedal assist level you have selected. So right now I have it in Eco, second gear, start from a stop, about a half turn, maybe just shy of that for the Cadence sensor to engage. I'm going to shift up to fourth gear, and it looks like 10 miles an hour is where the motor wants to hold us in Eco. Let's go into trail. Fifth gear, sixth gear, trying to get at a comfortable cadence where I can still provide power. There's 15 miles an hour. Sport. Shift up again. Looks like 17 miles an hour. And boost undoubtedly is going to be 20, very easy. All right, now so we can test out the top speed, I changed it to class 3 mode. I have it in sport right now. So something to be aware of, in class 2 versus class 3, the top speeds change. So in sport, I'm able to do 23, 24 miles an hour. Remember, that was lower when it was set to class 2. Now I just changed it to boost. 9th gear. And 28 without breaking a sweat. Yeah, this motor's powerful. The Cadence, not surprisingly, is a little bit faster at 28, but I can still provide a leg pressure. All right, now let's quick swap to the torque sensor. I will leave it in class 3 because I'm curious how hard it will be to hit those class 3 speeds. Now remember, the torque sensor, that is measuring pedal input. So the more power I put in, the motor is going to reward me, so to speak. All right, we are in 5th gear in Eco, and what I'll do is I'll do a nice and easy cadence, and then I'll put in just a little bit more leg power, not a ton, so we can get an idea of what each pedal assist level looks like. So 11 miles an hour right now in Eco, 12, a little bit more power. All right, took a little bit more effort to see the motor power actually go up on the motor bar on the display, but there's 13, 15. All right, let's go into trail, shift up, so it's a little bit easier to put pedal pressure on the pedals. 14 miles an hour cruising speed. All right, trail feels a little bit more responsive, not a ton, 16, 17 miles an hour. Let's see if I put even more power down, if I can get closer to 20, there we go. And remember, you can customize all of these pedal assist levels. You can turn things down if you want to, totally up to you. I left them stock except for boost, I cranked all the way up. I'm in sport now. Nice and easy, 14 miles an hour, 16, a little bit more leg power, 18, there's 22, and that's still not a ton of effort from my legs. All right, next we're in boost, and after that we're going to talk about pulse mode. Yes, this bike is reading my heart rate currently. It's a very interesting decision from Velotric. All right, here we go in boost. All right. Definitely a little bit more of a natural takeoff than compared to the Cadence sensor. All right, I'm in 8th gear. 20 miles an hour cruising speed. Let's go into 9th gear. Front suspension soaking up some of those bumps. All right, and just a little bit more power there, 25. There's 27, 28 miles an hour. So even with the torque sensor, you can still hit the top speed. All right, let's go into pulse mode. How do you do that? Well, you have to enable it within the app, put in some information about yourself, and then when you go down to off, hit the down arrow once again. This is, of course, after you've paired your heart rate monitor. I have it right here, and 94 beats per minute. And what I actually was playing around with earlier that I liked was, say I go back into class 2, I have my speed here already, so why not see what my heart rate is with some of those additional settings. So right now, I can have my heart rate on the left, 96, average heart rate. So it's kind of a cool feature, and it's not too hard to put the band on your arm, so maybe something that people will use. Let me know what you think. So now I have it in zone 1. It kind of wants to keep me in that zone 1, and it has the motor bars are now replaced with colored bars that kind of tell me whether I'm staying in my target heart rate zone, which I am right now. I have the green bar, which would mean that I'm not putting in enough power myself. And then the blue bar kind of tells me, yes, I'm putting in enough leg power to kind of hold myself at the zone 1 heart rate. And cruising at 20 miles an hour still, going down a slight hill here. So zone 1 is going to be your kind of nice and easy, not working too hard. I mean, we saw the speed, but I imagine as I go up here, it's going to give me less and less motor power. Let's go into zone 3. So right now I see only a green bar. That's telling me, hey, you got to work harder if you want to get some assist. Heart rate getting up closer to 100. Oh boy, we'll see how this short and steep hill goes. I'm going to shift all the way down. Oh boy, not getting much assist. I'm working. Oh no, my legs are burning. I think I'm just getting no power from the motor. The display is telling me, hey, you're not hitting zone 3, 110. All right, so that should give you a good idea of how pulse works. I'm gonna go down to zone 2. Okay, not going to lie, breathing pretty heavy. All right, there we go. Heart rate increasing. I'm at 142. Now apparently I'm working too hard, so the motor is actually assisting me more. It's such an interesting take on an e-bike and how it functions. If you want to work out, I do think this is kind of an interesting way to do it on an e-bike. I'm going to catch my breath though. We are on our way to the hill climb. All right, here is our hill. The GoPro makes it look so much smaller than it is, so we'll put up the specs of the hill on the screen. And I think this bike is going to crush this hill, but we'll see. It shows that I'm getting around 1100 watts. I have the display set so I can see rider input and motor power. 1150 watts, 13 miles an hour. We're at 88% battery. And as we saw in the first person riding footage, a plenty powerful motor. It didn't falter at all. 13 miles an hour minimum speed up this hill. Let's go back down though, and we'll see how it does while pedaling. We'll do a quick brake test right now though. And nice to have Shimano brakes on this bike. Not something you often see. Usually we see Tektro. These perform really good though. All right, we are going to start in Eco. With the torque sensor, we'll see if we need to quick swap to the Cadence sensor. All right, it says I'm putting in 200 watts and it could do it, but my legs would feel it at the top, that's for sure. Now I'm up to around 240 watts. Let's go into trail. All right, a little bit of relief there. Let's go into sport. Okay, felt it more there. Now more easy to just kind of spin my legs, but still putting in close to 200 watts. Let's go into boost. All right, now basically all I need to do is just keep my legs spinning and I'm getting power from the motor. Certainly it is measuring my torque. And of course, if I push down harder, I get more motor power. But the cool thing about a bike like this is I'm going to swap it to the Cadence sensor. And there we go. The bike just takes over at this point because as long as I'm spinning my legs, I am getting full motor power as we climb to 13 miles an hour in boost. So that's the cool thing about sensor swap. You could also use the throttle. And as I've been riding, even in the streets, I've been feeling the front suspension. Now let's see how this bike feels off-road. So obviously this bike isn't hiding the fact that it's also meant for the streets. It's got fenders after all and the optional rear rack. But I think one of the main benefits of this bike, especially comparing it to a fat tire bike, is you can much more easily maneuver. You can dip off a paved trail and maybe take a shortcut. So let's start with something I definitely think this bike can do. There's a little green trail here. It's actually called Good Vibrations. I mean, my son can do this. So if he can do it, this bike definitely can. It's nice and smooth, nice and rolly. I have it in torque sensor. The suspension even feels good. And I have those mountain bike tires. So I get a little bit more traction than say a full-on commuter. And then when you want to get off, you can just hop on the pavement. So that's kind of cool. Depending on where you live, you can hop on some off-road trails, and thanks to the suspension and tires, you have a little bit more confidence. But let's get to something that I'm not sure how this bike will feel on. All right, next we have an uphill that's a bit rocky, maybe closest to, say, a fire road. And I went in boost with the torque sensor, could maybe go down to sport. And this is a little bit chunky, there's no question. So I think this bike, if you live in an area where there's fire road access or some off-road trails, I think this might be a little rockier than some fire roads, but the nice thing is this isn't super technical. The motor certainly has the capability, and as it smooths out here, I can go a little bit faster, even get out of the seat a little bit to have my body soak up some of the bumps. Now we're getting into some true single track. This section actually isn't that technical, so I'm able to cruise here pretty easily. And so a trail like this is something that you may or may not want to do. So here's where you get to some stuff where I think this bike hits its limits. This is a blue trail. We're going to leave it in torque sensor, and this is a lot more technical. There's tree roots, and not that I can do it, but if you've ever been on a true electric mountain bike, it just feels a lot better. A lot of that has to do with this being a hub motor compared to the mid-drive motors on most electric mountain bikes. This just feels a little less nimble. The balance is a lot different, being that so much weight is in that rear wheel and tire. The motor power is delivered differently, with a mid-drive delivering it through the drivetrain, so that provides a slightly different experience. And if you're really wanting to get into mountain biking, like, yeah, sure, I guess you could do a trail like this and it might be fun, but if you want to get a little bit more serious, it's not going to be fun for too long, because you'll realize that a true electric mountain bike would be better suited for something like this. Though power-wise, this bike certainly has enough power, and the drivetrain actually isn't too bad. Another technical section here. My rear wheel actually got stuck on this lug right here. All right, with that, let's get into my concluding thoughts on who should and shouldn't buy the Velotric Summit 2. When an e-bike attempts to be two things at once, it sometimes doesn't do either thing well. So let's break down what we actually have here. Before we do that though, let's talk about price. At $20.99, it is one of the more expensive e-bikes in Velotric's lineup, and it's getting up there price-wise for a hub motor e-bike in general. But this is more of a niche offering, and Velotric does justify the cost with some nicer than usual components. Let's look at the Velotric Summit 2 as a commuter first. There's no question that this bike has the power commuters want. Class 3 speeds, no problem. Torque and cadence sensor, check. When I say it has power, I mean it is very powerful. We're talking about a 750 watt motor that peaks at 1300 watts, pushing out 100 newton meters of torque. And as we saw in our hill climb test, it handled the hill with ease. I'm glad to see a step up in battery size from some of the other Velotric models, coming in at 16.7 amp hours. You're looking at a range of easily over 30 miles on the low end using the higher pedal assist levels, lots of throttle, and if you're using the lower assist levels, hitting 70 miles is certainly possible. For commuting, visibility is key, so it's nice that this has an integrated front light plus a rear light with a brake light and turn signals. The included fenders are essential for any commuter, and the adjustable stem allows for a more relaxed riding position while still maintaining a sporty feel. Those who ride in all conditions will appreciate the water resistance. Velotric is really leading the way with an IPX7 rating for the battery and IPX6 rating for the whole bike. Remember, there's also two sizes, regular and large, which helps you pick the bike that's going to fit you better. Many commuters might want to opt for the optional rear rack, which is MIC compatible, allowing you to easily remove your accessories. On the tech side, you have Apple Find My and Android Find Hub, plus the addition of NFC keys for added security. These are certainly not features you'll find on a dedicated electric mountain bike, and more broadly, some other e-bike brands are still playing catch up when it comes to features like this. Plus, with the ride tuning, you can dial in your pedal assist levels, and it's just nice to have full control over your e-bike. Moving on to, let's call it the off-road side, you have some nice components, but it stops shy at being a true EMTB, largely due to the rear hub motor and it just being a heavy e-bike. This is built for the mixed terrains that probably most people ride, like light trails and gravel. Up front, you have wider handlebars than you'd typically find on an e-bike. That allows you to have more control off-road. The RST air suspension fork actually felt pretty good on the trails, definitely offering some more comfort than budget options you'll find on sub $2,000 e-bikes. I certainly felt it more, and it's always nice to see an actual brand name fork. With all that power, stopping power is important. I was happy to see Velotric include Shimano hydraulic disc brakes. This is a brand that you would normally find on an electric mountain bike. While the 9-speed Shimano Q's derailleur and shifter aren't what we typically find on higher end mountain bikes, they perform better and should hold up better than the basic Shimano components we usually see. Then of course you have the Kenda tires, which gave me confidence taking this bike off-road. This bike might be a great option for those who want an alternative to a even heavier fat tire e-bike, cutting some of the bulk to feel a little bit more normal, like a standard commuter. It certainly felt very nimble. You won't be tackling aggressive single track, but there's no question this bike will give you more confidence than taking a pavement bike off-road. The pulse mode heart rate monitor is an interesting addition. I'm just not sure how many people care about tracking their heart rate when riding a bike like this, but then again, I had fun trying it out. You can see from your heart rate that you actually are putting in some effort. Remember, if you're planning to purchase a Velotric e-bike, be sure to use our discount code in the description to save on your purchase. Don't forget to use our link as well to support the channel. Thank you guys so much for your support. The Summit 2 has received some pretty significant upgrades from the Summit 1, and Velotric is leaning even more into this being a dual-purpose e-bike with all the features they've stuffed in. Let me know in the comment section what you think of the Summit 2. Is a hybrid or dual-purpose e-bike compelling to you? What other models are you considering? Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.